There's been a steady supply of open-world games over the years from major companies like Sony and Rockstar Games. However, Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 3 pretty much kickstarted the craze, presenting a crazy open-world playground that players could get lost in. Of course, with any success comes imitators, whether it's those looking to borrow some of the mechanics and bolt them onto pre-established franchises, or simply using similar themes, especially in the case of GTA San Andreas, for awful cash grabs. Let's take a look at the worst Grand Theft Auto-inspired titles and clones here. Before we go ahead, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos every single day, and your support really helps us out. With that out of the way, let's start. Driver 3. When the Driver series originally debuted, it gained attention for using driving mechanics for a character-based action game. Driver 2, which was released in November of 2000, actually got ahead of Grand Theft Auto 3 by allowing Tanner to step out of his vehicle and take control of others. All of the action was still contained in the actual driving sequences, but it was a warning of things to come. Driver 3 released in June of 2004 and incorporated several GTA-like features including a notoriety system, fighting and combat with guns, and most annoyingly, on-foot missions. Though the driving was still decent, venturing on foot was rife with bugs, terrible AI, and horrible third-person controls. Subsequent titles would return to the series' established formula of driving, thankfully. True Crime New York City.
That will be all, Kurt. You've been looking after my boy, Terry?
Been looking after myself, Pop.
As the second and last entry in the True Crime franchise, True Crime New York City saw players investigating cases across the open world of Manhattan. Upon completing the first case, the other three could be tackled in any order, and that's about where the good points end. Critical issues like terrible AI, freezes, and numerous bugs like falling through the world, clipping, collision detection problems, and disappearing textures all took center stage, with frame rate drops, pop-in, and other visual issues breaking immersion.
Yeah, police officer!
I'm gonna stomp a mud hole through you.
You should be lucky.
New York police!
Seen enough, I'm out of here.
The gameplay had very little redeeming factors, especially when the script and overall mission design were drab. Intended to be the first game in a two-part series, True Crime New York City failed to ignite sales or garner positive criticism. True Crime Hong Kong would enter development but was subsequently cancelled, and the publishing rights were acquired by Square Enix, transforming the title into Sleeping Dogs, so at least it had a happy ending of sorts. 25 to Life. One of the worst games ever made. It's almost impossible to believe that 25 to Life was made by studios like Avalanche Software and Ritual Entertainment with Eidos Interactive Publishing. Featuring 3 protagonists, it's more of a third-person shooter than a straight-up clone of GTA's open-world formula, but there is no denying its attempt to cash in on the popularity of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. This ultimately resulted in a horrible, nonsensical narrative and awful combat, which takes place across mostly linear environments, which will quickly wear on your patience. Multiplayer is also included for up to 16 players, assuming enough madmen actually picked up the game and held onto it for long enough to go online. APB Reloaded. It would be one thing if APB All Points Bulletin was a straightforward clone of GTA, but Real-Time Worlds had other ideas. Taking place in San Pedro, the actual gameplay presented a mix of MMO and third-person action elements based on what an opposing faction's members did. Players could join either the criminals or enforcers. If the former caused any crimes, then an All Points Bulletin would be issued to any player enforcers to stop them. Customizing one's character, interacting with the fully persistent world, and completing various missions were all fairly typical, and there were even PvP districts where factions could openly fight. For a 2010 title that sought to make celebrities of its players, it was fairly interesting, and also underdeveloped. Numerous bugs and issues, the lack of any cohesive storytelling, awful visuals, and clunky controls are just some of the issues that players had. Yet it cost $100 million to develop, which was only slightly less than Grand Theft Auto 4. APB has since passed hands over the years, with Real-Time Worlds being acquired by Reloaded Productions, which relaunched it as APB Reloaded, and whose parent company was acquired by Little Orbit. Though still running and receiving heavy monetization, APB Reloaded barely peaks over 400 players these days. Real Gangster Auto Crime 2020. The number of poorly made GTA clones on mobile is probably too high at this point, so instead, let's focus on some of the more recent, horrible ones. Real Gangster Auto Crime Simulator 2020, if the name didn't give it away, is so shameless in ripping off Rockstar's franchise that it even has a screenshot of GTA 5's Trevor for its title screen. The screenshots on the Play Store listing are all lies, as the actual game looks horrendous, but also kind of funny in every single way. Apparently focused on a gang war, you play as Sam Wick, an ex-underground street racer turned undercover police officer looking to avenge his brother's death. But he's also looking to be a saucy but thrilling grand gangster, as per the official description, when he's not using cheats and codes to become the boss of the mafia. And no, I have no idea what any of this means. Gangs of New York. If you've seen one terrible GTA clone on mobile, you've probably seen them all, and Gangs of New York is no exception. The Google Play Store listing is once again an exercise in deception, showcasing visuals that are way beyond what the actual game has to offer. The gameplay is no better, with its repetitively bland driving, shooting, and environments. I don't know whether the game actually offers more than 30 characters, 40 vehicles, and 120 houses like its page proudly touts, and quite frankly, I'm afraid to actually find out. Crime Life Gang Wars. Despite the mobile title sounding name, Crime Life Gang Wars is actually a 2005 title published by Konami. Gang wars are the central theme once again, as the player roams Grand Central City and beats down enemies with melee combat. As a straightforward beat-em-up, Crime Life Gang Wars is awful, but it also throws in commands for managing your AI teammates, turning it into an awful cluster. The graphics are gnarly, the production values are seemingly non-existent, and it just all comes across as a cheap cash grab more than anything else. And with that, we reached the end of the video. Have anything to say? Let us know in the comments below. Also, we upload new videos every single day on Gaming Bolt, so please consider subscribing, as it really helps us out. Thanks for watching.